Live visuals on your screen coming in today morning of the rescue operations that are on but are also in their final stage. They're trying to pull out as many bodies as possible because the survival possibility of those who've been trapped is dipping by the sunrise now. Remember, this happened yesterday evening. It is going to be now more than 12 hours since the tragedy has taken place. We're talking about families that had come out for a Sunday outing on this popular tourist attraction that was opened after 6 to 7 months. Indian Army has been deployed. The deep divers from Indian Navy have also been pressed into service because they'll be the ones to be able to not only bring out those who are alive but also the dead bodies that need to be pulled out. This, remember, apart from the SDRF and the NDRF teams that are already on the job. Meanwhile, the question will be, how was this bridge opened after 6 to 7 months if the clearance was not given after the renovation work? Who opened the bridge and why? Was it there some urgency that because it is the Hindu New Year, the Gujarati New Year, that it must be opened for the public if the work was not complete? Because if there are people who have crowded on that bridge on a Sunday, was the administration not aware? Now a committee has been formed, which is under the criminal case that has been registered under Indian Penal Code 304308, which is culpable homicide not amounting to murder, and also 114. But the question is, while these officers have been set up from municipal corporation, from the administrative services of the country, what was the municipal corporation doing right at that time? Why was the work that was not supervised to an extent? If it was not cleared, why was it opened? If it was cleared, why did they not expect the turnout, considering this is a festive time for Gujarat and clearly for the communities that have been thriving and coming on that bridge? We're talking about death of women and children. We're talking about death of young men. The cables collapsed yesterday evening when the rush on the bridge got too much. Now, over 100 people have also been rescued. Many are trying to find out their missing loved ones. These are the visuals coming in from the morning today. This was the starting of the bridge. So we are trying to show you different angles about the suspension of the bridge. Rescue operations, the NDRF and the SDRF teams have been there since night and are trying to do as much rescue work as possible. Remember, at this point, it would be very tough to be able to bring out people alive right now. We are talking about at least 15 feet deep water. This is the Machhu river over which the signature bridge, which is actually British era bridge. So it was an old historic bridge that had been renovated recently. And now we have disturbing images on our screen coming in of what remains of this bridge. People were trying to hold on as a lifeline to the remnants of that bridge. Imagine the panic it would have caused, literally a stampede underwater. In barely few seconds, hundreds of people, of the number still not clear, because that's what the investigation will find out. How much was the weight that a bridge like this can take? How many people actually turned up on the bridge? How was such a crowd allowed to be around the bridge? And this when we are talking about families who've now lost their loved ones. So right now, with the rescue operations that are on, teams of Army, Navy, Air Force, NDRF, Fire Brigade, SDRF are carrying out the rescue operation, which is presently in the last stage. It has been through the night. People who knew swimming managed to, at least some of them, managed to swim back to the bank. There were villagers who jumped in. There were migrant laborers who were involved in construction work nearby who jumped into service. So the first responders, before the NDRF, SDRF teams could even be contacted that something like this has happened, they were the local residents of Gujarat. They were the migrant laborers. They were the villagers who were pressed into service by themselves when they heard people shouting and crying. And this, remember, the sun has dipped. So the villagers and the eyewitness accounts, and we'll be playing out some of those eyewitness accounts as well, that they said how they managed to bring out people as much as possible initially. Because that initial moment, perhaps that few hours that these local residents or the laborers who were around, people who were around who could jump to the river and help bring people to safety, they have managed to save perhaps the maximum life. Let's go across to my colleagues because India Today's reporters have been there since yesterday evening. And this is not just about showing images to you. This is about asking questions. This has to ensure that this cannot happen again in our country. Ashutosh Mishra is joining me now with this live telecast. Ashutosh, in the river that you're tracking now, And we wouldn't want to, of course, and I can say that we're not bothering any rescue or relief operation right now. Ashutosh is trying to ascertain the situation. Ashutosh, first, how deep is the river? Secondly, what precisely is right now the strategy? Because over 12 hours have passed. And it wouldn't be very easy to bring out people alive. How are the rescue personnel ensuring? Yes. Go ahead.
You already heard the personals that, chances of survival is barely any percent. However, as far as death is concerned, it is some around 14 to 15 feet. But the concern largely which is affecting the operation going up, as far as divers going inside is that because there is no visibility inside the water, it's largely polluted, so very poor visibility. Also, now more focus is only right just below the bridge where the part of the metal and the bridge which was collapsed. So first they are trying to vacate that and lift it up. Once that entire portion is cleared, then another round of this operation will be carried out. Now, mostly since we know the number of missings, the number of deaths that we are seeing already being reported officially, so very less possibility now there are more people will be trapped inside. Hence, the operation is actually on standby. The first priority is now to lift that metal sheet, the part of the bridge which is still suspending and hanging, and also there are part which could be possibly inside the water. But officer, how long this operation could take place?
Lifting the crane, I am not so sure, but I think it will take 1 or 2 hours.
Another. Do you see any more possibility people would be inside trapped still?
People can be trapped, but the possibility of their being alive is not there.
Very much understood. Yeah. But what we are seeing, that metal sheet, okay, so those are Navy personnel, they are hooking up that the part of the bridge. Once they lift out, because largely I see this portion has already been cleared, right?
Exactly. Yeah, so like the possibility of finding the dead bodies are there because that portion till now has not been lifted up. Once it gets lifted, then let's see what happens.
So what we understand is that almost 80% of that portion of the bridge were lifted out till early morning, but 10 to 20% still left inside. Once that part is clear, now you see this area is being cleared. Once that portion lifted by the JCB, the heavy earth moving machines, the machinery which is being used, then perhaps that will be centralized to at that only point to find out the missing people who could be possibly
Ashutosh, because we're so close to the bridge right now, do help us understand. It's not that easy for a bridge or even a suspension bridge like this to just fall down, specifically if it's been renovated. Are you looking at the cables that have been snapped in half? Are the cables in place, but the foundation of that bridge that had fallen? Can you help us understand what exactly happened that the people fell? Because how can the cable just suddenly come off like that?
Well, Pooja, if you make any structure that has, certain weight capacity and going beyond that, that's yes, certainly, going to kill it. And that's exactly what we are seeing here. The suspension bridge was made, of course, it's decades-year-old, several times renovated. There are certain visuals surfacing on social media that people even complained in 2019 that how part of this bridge was damaged in Morbi. And this is the one, if I could say that this is a signature bridge of Morbi. This really, as people consider it being Sunday, largely they gather on this part. That's the only thing that Morbi has at the moment for the people. And then that is the part where largely what we heard from the eyewitnesses, that more people came from that side, and that's exactly where the first cable from that suspended bridge broke out. And if there is one mega support that I saw, it is 4 to 5 inches width. That is the width of that cable. If one cable comes out, then clearly you lose the massive support, and then suddenly it started falling like a car. And then we have those images, horrific images, how people were literally trapped. Few tried to escape out, few swam out, but clearly, again, the number of persons we are seeing, the casualty toll that we are seeing, that itself says the story. And being negligence of the construction, that will be investigated by the special team. Largely the question is that person who was selling the tickets, 50 rupees each, how could he not anticipate the number have gone really too much, and this bridge cannot take load of that amount of weight. Also, the eyewitnesses told that when they were seeing so much rush, they were started shouting that bridge will fall down, it will collapse, people should not go there. But then again, there were no administrative arrangement. There was no, the police arrangement anticipating that there is so much crowd. It was Sunday, people largely go out. Just was really innovated, and after the renovation, it was open for the public